So how you guys doing? So yesterday a young man came into the store and we had started talking. He's a young entrepreneur. He's 20 years old. Looked like he had his act together and knows what he wants to do and what he wants to accomplish. He asked me, he said, as a person who's been around basically, what would I advise a young entrepreneur just getting started? I told him a couple of things, but I think the most important things that I told him, the first thing I told him is self-awareness. You got to be true to yourself. But first, you got to know who you are. Now, we talked about the fact that you're born into a culture, you're born into a society, and when you're born into it, you will naturally become whatever it is that society has. So if you're born into as an American or as a Russian or as in India, it doesn't matter. You're going to be born into a culture. From the time that you are a baby, you're born into a certain culture that you're fed, and it creates who you are and all your thoughts. You're born into parents. You're born into certain social environments. You're born into financial environments. You're born into religious environments. You're born into all these different things that you have absolutely no choice of when you're a child. And that indoctrination lasts until you're an adult. And then by that time frame, you usually continue the indoctrination yourself. Some people like to call it brainwashing. But what I told him is that you have to go into a level of self-discovery. You have to go and find out exactly who you are and find out what you want to become. And I liken that into business because just as you need to become self-aware, the first thing you have to do is seek out knowledge. I told him about what's called the Tirvium. And this is what we're going to talk about for the next 3 videos, is the Tirvium. Now, if you want longer versions and more detailed, or you want to get into a situation where you can converse with me, then I would suggest you look up Renz, R-E-N-Z, Speaks on Periscope if you're on Periscope. And when I broadcast those will be longer and people can communicate with me. But the first idea of the Tirvium is that you must acquire knowledge. All right, the Tirvium is an ancient method of thinking. I put this on another video, and it's the way that you learn. Julius Caesar wanted to kill one of his centurions for teaching one of the slaves the Tirvium method, and he was going to feed him to his enemies. And he told him that if you teach a slave this, then they will no longer desire to be a slave. See, that reminds me of the movie Knight's Tale. And one of my favorite parts of the movie in Knight's Tale is that the father tells young William when he's a kid that you can change your stars. You see, they were in a feudalist caste system where if you was born a carpenter, you die a carpenter. If you was born a slave, you die a slave. If you was born royalty, you die royalty. And you couldn't change it. That was just the feudal system. We still live in a somewhat feudal system today. Most people, it is estimated that most people won't go beyond 10% of whatever their parents did. 10%. It's very low. And in today's world, most people, these next generations, they're falling behind. So, but William's father told him that you can change your stars. Meaning that you can choose your path and change how you line up amongst all the constellations. You can change it. You can change yours. But the first thing that William had to do is that when he had to change his environment, and he changed his knowledge base. He told him, go and learn as much as you can. When he sent him off to go and work for this poor knight, he told him, learn as much as you can. And then we know that later in the movie, he falsified who he was, but he changed his stars and he was given royalty. He was given of a royal line because of his honor and his bravery. But he changed his stars. And when he met his father again, that's what he told his father. The first time he came back to his father, he said, I changed my stars. You can change your stars, but first you must acquire the knowledge. And see, the Tirvium is a methodology that you've heard it before, you've seen it before. Most of the time, though, it's put into the wrong pathway. It's put into the wrong, the categories aren't set up correctly so that it tricks you so that you never actually go and learn it the true and correct way. And it keeps you in slavery and in bondage. But that first thing is to acquire knowledge. And I taught the young man the entire Tirvium, but we're going to go today just acquiring knowledge. For self-awareness and for whatever work or line of business that you're in, the first thing you must do is acquire as much knowledge as you possibly can concerning yourself, your environment, how things work, who is in charge of what, who dictates this, who dictates that, how the system works. Many people are trying to invest money into the stock market but have no idea how the stock market actually works. If I told you to buy on margin or buy index, most people wouldn't know what that is. If we talked about credit and talked about the difference between revolving lines of credit and things like that, most people should know what that is. But how does your credit score work? What gives you that? What is 35% of your credit score? What is 30% of your credit score? If I told you that the credit usage currently represents 35% of your credit score, most people don't know that. And so their credit card usage is up. Like you got a $300 limit, you're like $250 on it, when you need to be down to about $90 on a $300 limit. Keeping your credit card usage down to about 30%, 20% lifts your score. All right, people don't know that, so you have to learn. You have to gather this knowledge in. That's the first level of the Tirvium, gaining knowledge. And all you're getting, get knowledge. And I know people say, well, I feel like and I want, and they have these delusions of grandeur. But what you need to have is knowledge of grandeur, plans of grandeur. You need to bring things in by coming to the level of knowledge on them. And in today's world, knowledge is easy to obtain. We are not living no longer in the days where you had to go to the library to find out anything, where everything was hidden in a book, that you have to meet special people and be grafted into their small circles. Now, there are still elements of that today where you can be grafted into a small circle, and that there are certain books where things are hidden because you have to go beyond the esoteric meaning of it and go beyond the exoteric and look at the esoteric meanings of things. You have to go beyond it, and so that you can understand it. But the knowledge is there. It's readily available for anyone. The internet has made the world knowledge base global. So you have no excuse. And then, yes, we'll get to what you have to do after you obtain the knowledge. But initially, go get all the knowledge. Get the knowledge of who you are first. I told the young man to become self-aware. Know who you are. Know your strength. Know your weaknesses. Know things that you're good at and things that you're not good at. Be true to yourself. Be honest with yourself. The hardest thing to do is to take in and self-evaluate. I was going to say criticize, but evaluate is better. Because you don't want to just beat yourself. You don't want to just criticize. You want to evaluate who you are. You want to be able to say, on a scale of 1 to 10, my level of execution is a 5. And maybe I need to get that up. On a scale of 1 to 10, my ability to see the big picture is a 10. So I'm great. But my ability to handle the details is a 2. So maybe that's where I need help, or depending on my level of ability to pay someone else, maybe I need to improve that area myself so that I can get better. So you have to think and become self-aware by grading yourself so that you know where you're helping yourself and where you're hindering yourself. If you're in an environment that's good for you, if you're in an environment that's bad for you. Because like I've always said, my greatness is non-negotiable, and I know so is yours. Your greatness is non-negotiable. So gain your self-awareness, empty your cup, and learn who you are, and fill your cup with the things that you desire to be. And then knowledge. Start acquiring the knowledge. And tomorrow I'll tell you the rest. My phone is ringing. Y'all have a great day.